His dog uncovered a secret beneath a worthless carriage house, and powerful people were willing to burn it all down. A homeless Navy SEAL was left, only a carriage house nobody wanted, his dog found. What they hid inside. The call came on a freezing Tennessee night when former Navy SEAL Cole Brennan was sleeping inside an old pickup truck with only his retired military K9 Titan beside him. He was told he'd inherited a forgotten carriage house deep in the Smoky Mountains. But when Titan began digging beneath the floorboards, they uncovered a hidden secret that someone had spent years protecting. And someone else would do anything to destroy. Comment 1 if you'd follow your dog's instincts, or 0 if you'd walk away. And tell us where you're watching from. The cold came early that November. By 6 o'clock, the parking lot behind the truck stop outside Gatlinburg had already disappeared beneath a thin layer of mountain fog. Diesel engines rumbled in the darkness. Headlights swept across rows of parked semis before fading into the night. Inside an aging blue Ford pickup, Cole Brennan sat motionless behind the steering wheel. The truck had once belonged to a construction company. Now it was home. The dashboard was cracked. The heater only worked when it felt like it. A blanket covered the passenger seat. A sleeping bag filled the back. Every possession Cole owned fit inside 2 military duffel bags. At 54 years old, the former Navy SEAL looked much older. Gray had spread through his beard. Deep lines cut across his weathered face. Years of poor sleep had left permanent shadows beneath his eyes. Yet even now there was something unmistakably military about him. The way he scanned every movement. The way he always parked facing an exit. The way his shoulders tightened whenever a loud noise echoed nearby. Some habits never left. Some memories never did either. A low sigh escaped him as he stared through the windshield. Beyond the glass, truckers walked toward the diner carrying steaming cups of coffee. Families climbed into warm SUVs. Tourists laughed as they loaded luggage for weekend trips into the Smoky Mountains. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to go. Everyone except him. A soft nudge against his arm pulled him from the thought. Cole glanced down. Titan was awake. The German shepherd sat upright in the passenger seat, watching him. Even in the dim light, the dog's amber eyes seemed almost human. Older now. Gray around the muzzle. A small scar above one eye, but still alert, still watching, still loyal. Cole reached over and scratched behind the dog's ear. "You hungry, buddy?" Titan's tail thumped once against the seat. That was answer enough. Cole grabbed a paper bag from the floorboard. Inside sat half a roast beef sandwich he'd saved from lunch. He tore it in half, one piece for himself, one for Titan. The dog accepted it gently. Never grabbed, never rushed. Military working dogs were trained differently. Titan had spent years beside Cole in places most people only saw on the news. Afghanistan, Syria, Horn of Africa. Places where mistakes cost lives. Places where trust meant everything. For a few minutes they ate in silence. Outside, darkness settled deeper over the mountains. A train whistle echoed somewhere far away. The sound drifted through the fog before disappearing. Cole leaned back against the seat. The truck creaked softly. His eyes closed. For a moment he thought maybe sleep would come. Then a pallet slammed somewhere behind the truck stop. The sharp crack exploded through the night. Instantly his body reacted. Eyes open, heart racing. Hand moving toward the folding knife hidden beside the seat. For half a second he wasn't in Tennessee anymore. He was back overseas, dust, gunfire, radio chatter, a wounded teammate screaming for help. Cole inhaled sharply. Titan immediately pressed his muzzle against his arm, grounding him, pulling him back. The parking lot returned. The fog, the trucks, the cold, nothing else. Cole slowly exhaled. "Yeah," he whispered. "I'm here." Titan stayed beside him until his breathing settled. The dog had done that for years. Long after the military, long after the deployments, long after everyone else had moved on. People called it PTSD. Doctors had used bigger words. Trauma. Hypervigilance, combat stress. Cole didn't care what they called it. He just knew sleep had become a battlefield, and Titan was usually the only thing that brought him home. His old flip phone suddenly buzzed. The sound startled him. Nobody called anymore. Not family, not friends. Most of those connections had faded years ago. Cole stared at the screen. Unknown number, area code from Knoxville. He almost ignored it, then answered. "Hello." A woman's voice greeted him. Professional, calm. "Mr. Brennan?" "Depends who's asking." "My name is Laura Hastings. I'm an attorney with Hastings and Pierce Legal Services." Cole frowned. Lawyers never called him. Not anymore. "You got the wrong guy." "I don't believe I do." Something in her voice made him pause. "I've been attempting to locate you for nearly 3 weeks. Cole sat up straighter. Titan's ears lifted. "Why?" There was a brief pause. Then the woman said something that made no sense at all. "I'm calling regarding the estate of Rose Whitaker." The name hit him like a distant memory. Familiar, but buried. Rose Whitaker, where had he heard? Then he remembered. A flash flood. 3 years ago. Heavy rain had turned mountain roads into rivers. Cole had pulled an elderly woman from a stranded SUV after everyone else drove past. She'd been terrified, shivering. Stubborn as hell, Rose. The memory returned piece by piece. A warm smile, silver hair, sharp blue eyes. The smell of coffee from the thermos she'd carried. "You remember her?" the attorney asked. "Maybe." The answer sounded weaker than he intended. Laura Hastings continued. "Mrs. Whitaker passed away 6 weeks ago." Cole looked out into the darkness. The news landed strangely. Not grief. Not exactly surprise. The woman had seemed indestructible. "What does that have to do with me?" Another pause. Then, "Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Whitaker named you in her will." Cole blinked. For a moment he thought he had misheard. "What?" "She left you property." The words felt absurd. Property to him. A homeless veteran sleeping in a truck stop parking lot. "That's not possible." "It is." Cole laughed once. A dry, humorless sound. "You got family members fighting this thing?" "No." "Then why me?" "That," the attorney said carefully, "is something only Mrs. Whitaker could fully answer." Titan was watching him now. Watching the change in his face. The dog always noticed. "Always," Laura continued. "The property is located in the Smoky Mountains, approximately 30 miles east of Gatlinburg." Cole rubbed his forehead. "What kind of property?" The answer arrived. Simple, unexpected. "A carriage house." Silence. "A carriage house?" "Not land, not money, not investments. A carriage house," the attorney continued. "Most of the estate went elsewhere. This particular structure was specifically designated for transfer to you." Cole stared through the windshield. Fog drifted beneath the parking lot lights. Truck engines hummed softly nearby. Nothing about this felt real. "What kind of carriage house?" "An old one." "How old?" "Over 100 years." Cole almost laughed again. Of course. A broken-down building. Exactly the sort of inheritance life would hand him. Yet something about it stayed with him. A question. A mystery. Why? The attorney gave him an address, then added something else. "There's one more thing." Cole waited. "Mrs. Whitaker left written instructions." "What instructions?" Laura hesitated, almost as if she found them strange herself. "She specifically requested that you bring your dog." Cole froze. Titan lifted his head. The attorney continued. "Those were her exact words. Bring your dog." A chill moved through Cole's chest, not fear, recognition. Rose had met Titan years ago, during the flood. The elderly woman had spent nearly an hour talking to the German shepherd while waiting for emergency crews. She'd fed him pieces of turkey from a sandwich. Titan had liked her immediately. Rare, very rare. Most people never earn that kind of trust. The lawyer cleared her throat. "We'd like to meet tomorrow morning." Cole looked at Titan. The dog stared back calmly, as if waiting, as if he already knew. "I'll think about it." "Please do." The call ended. Silence returned. For several minutes Cole sat without moving. The phone rested in his hand. Outside, fog continued drifting across the truck stop. Life moved on. People came and went. Engines started. Doors slammed, yet something felt different now. Like a door had opened somewhere far away. A door he didn't know existed. Titan nudged his arm again. Cole looked down. The dog tilted his head. The same expression he'd worn during missions whenever something unusual happened. The expression that seemed to say, "Pay attention." Cole stared at him. Then, out toward the mountains hidden behind darkness, a carriage house, left to him by a woman he'd only met a handful of times. It made no sense, not one bit. Yet, for the first time in months, something stirred beneath the weight of survival. Curiosity, a reason to wake up tomorrow. A reason to drive somewhere besides another parking lot. A reason to believe life might still have one surprise left. Cole reached over and scratched Titan's neck. "You hear that, partner?" Titan's tail thumped. "Looks like somebody left us a mystery." Outside, the Smoky Mountains disappeared beneath rolling clouds. And somewhere beyond those dark ridges, a forgotten carriage house waited. Neither of them knew it yet. But that single phone call was about to change everything. The next morning arrived beneath a sky the color of old steel. Cold mist drifted through the valleys surrounding Gatlinburg, wrapping the Smoky Mountains in layers of pale gray cloud. The world looked half asleep. Cole Brennan was already awake. Sleep had lasted maybe 2 hours. 3 if he was generous. He sat inside the truck with a paper cup of black coffee, warming his hands, while Titan watched the parking lot through the passenger side window. The lawyer's address sat folded inside his jacket pocket. He had read it 6 times since sunrise. A carriage house. The words still sounded ridiculous. Yet something kept pulling at him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was desperation. Or maybe it was simply the fact that nobody had given him a reason to look forward to tomorrow in a very long time. Titan suddenly lifted his head. A city bus rolled past the truck stop entrance. The hiss of air brakes echoed through the morning. Cole noticed his pulse jump. Even now, after all these years, his body reacted before his mind did. Always scanning, always listening, always waiting. The SEAL training had never left. Neither had the war. He rubbed his eyes and started the truck. The engine protested before finally coming alive. "Let's go see what she left us." Titan's ears perked. His tail tapped once against the seat. An hour later, they were climbing deeper into the mountains. The roads narrowed. Tourist traffic disappeared. Small towns gave way to farmland. Rusting barns stood crooked beneath rolling hills. Fence posts leaned under decades of weather. The farther they drove, the quieter the world became. Cole rolled down the window. Cold mountain air rushed inside. Pine, wet leaves, wood smoke from distant chimneys. For the first time in months, he found himself paying attention to the scenery instead of merely surviving it. The lawyer's office sat inside a red brick building in a small town called Townsend. 1 traffic light, 1 diner, 1 gas station. The kind of place where everyone probably knew everyone else's business. Cole parked across the street. Habit. Never directly in front. Never boxed in. Titan jumped down beside him. The dog walked close against his left leg as they crossed the sidewalk. Inside, the office smelled like old paper and polished wood. Laura Hastings looked exactly how he imagined. Mid-40s. Professional. Sharp eyes. Kind smile. She stood when he entered. "Mr. Brennan." Cole nodded. "Titan." The lawyer's smile widened slightly. So she was right. Cole frowned. "About what?" Laura glanced toward the dog. "That you'd bring him." For some reason, that unsettled him. She motioned for them to sit. Titan settled beside the chair immediately. Perfect posture, perfect discipline. Laura opened a thick file. The name Rose Whitaker appeared across the cover. "You were one of the last people she ever spoke about." Cole blinked. "That doesn't make sense." "Actually," Laura said softly, "it makes more sense than you think." She slid several documents across the desk. Property transfer forms, survey maps, legal descriptions. Cole stared at them. The parcel wasn't large. Less than 2 acres, most of it surrounded by forest. The carriage house occupied one corner near an abandoned farm. No lake, no scenic views, no valuable development land, just mountains, trees, and one lonely structure. "That's it?" Laura nodded. "That's it." Cole almost laughed. No wonder nobody wanted it. "What about family?" Rose had family. The lawyer hesitated. "One nephew." Something about her tone caught his attention. "What kind of nephew?" "The complicated kind." That answer told him plenty, Laura continued. Grant Whitaker inherited the majority of her estate. Cole noticed the past tense. Inherited. Already done. Already settled. So why not give him this too? Laura looked directly at him. Because Rose specifically said not to. Silence. The clock on the wall ticked softly. Outside, a truck passed the building. Cole stared at the map again. The carriage house sat isolated at the edge of the property, almost forgotten, like somebody had deliberately separated it from everything else. The lawyer reached into the folder, then handed him a brass key, old, heavy, worn smooth by decades of use. "This opens the front door." Cole took it. The metal felt cold against his palm, unexpectedly heavy, like holding something important. Laura stood. "I believe that's everything." "That's it? Unless you have questions." Cole did. Hundreds of them. But none seemed to have answers. Finally, he asked the simplest one. "Why me?" The lawyer's expression softened. For a moment, she looked less like an attorney, and more like someone carrying another person's secret. Rose left a letter. Cole sat up slightly. Laura shook her head. "You don't get it yet." "What?" "The letter isn't here." She pointed toward the map. "It's waiting at the carriage house." The drive took another 40 minutes. The road wound higher into the mountains. Fog drifted through the valleys below. The farther they climbed, the more isolated everything became. Cell service vanished. Traffic disappeared. Even the radio became nothing but static. Titan spent most of the drive staring out the window, watching, listening. The dog seemed unusually alert. Cole noticed. He always noticed. Eventually, they reached a rusted metal gate hanging crooked between stone posts. A faded sign stood nearby, Whitaker Farm. Most of the lettering had peeled away. The gravel road beyond looked abandoned. Weeds pushed through the center. Tree branches arched overhead like a tunnel. Cole slowed the truck. Titan rose immediately, ears forward, body rigid. "What is it?" The dog didn't answer, of course. But something had his attention. The truck rolled through the gate. The property stretched across a narrow mountain valley. Open fields, fencing, a weathered farmhouse collapsing beneath years of neglect. Then Cole saw it, the carriage house. It stood near the edge of the forest. 2 stories, red brick, slate roof, tall wooden doors. The building leaned slightly, as if tired from carrying its own weight. Fog drifted around it. The structure looked almost cinematic against the mountain backdrop, beautiful and sad, like something forgotten by time. Cole parked near the front. For a long moment, neither he nor Titan moved. The carriage house sat completely silent. No smoke, no lights, no signs of life. Just stillness, and Titan growled. Low, quiet, barely audible. Cole turned. A black SUV was approaching from the opposite side of the property, expensive, new, completely out of place. The vehicle stopped 20 yards away. A man stepped out, late 40s, tailored coat, perfect haircut, expensive boots. Confidence radiated from him, the kind money often created. The man smiled, not warmly, professionally. "You're Cole Brennan." Not a question, a statement. Cole nodded. The man extended a hand. "Grant Whitaker." There it was, the nephew. Cole shook his hand, immediately regretted it. Something felt wrong. Not dangerous, just false. Titan stepped forward. A low growl vibrated deep inside his chest. Grant glanced down. His smile tightened. Friendly dog, usually. Titan's growl deepened. That surprised Cole. Titan wasn't aggressive. Not without reason. Not ever. Grant slowly withdrew his hand. The dog never took his eyes off him. Interesting. Very interesting. Grant looked back at Cole. "My aunt always had a soft spot for lost causes. The words sounded casual, but the insult sat underneath them. Cole ignored it. Grant motioned toward the carriage house. "She left you a headache, so I've heard." Grant laughed softly. "The roof leaks, the plumbing's shot. The foundation probably isn't much better." He paused, then added, "Tell you what, here it comes." Cole already knew. "I'll buy it from you." "Of course." Grant named a number. $10,000. More money than Cole had seen in years. The offer hung in the cold mountain air. Titan's growl became louder. Grant noticed. Cole noticed him noticing. Interesting again. Very interesting. Grant folded his hands. "You could walk away today." Cole looked toward the carriage house. The building stood silent beneath the fog. Then he looked down at Titan. The German shepherd had not moved, not an inch. Still staring at Grant, still growling. Something deep in Cole's instincts stirred. The same instincts that had kept him alive during deployments. Trust the dog. Always trust the dog. "No." Grant blinked. "No? I'm going to look around first." The smile disappeared, only for a second. But Cole saw it, the annoyance, the frustration. Then it vanished. Professional again, polished again. Grant nodded. "Suit yourself." He climbed back into the SUV. Before shutting the door, he looked at the carriage house one last time. Then at Titan, then at Cole. "If you change your mind, call me." The SUV disappeared down the gravel road. Silence returned. The fog drifted through the valley. A crow called somewhere near the forest edge. Titan remained motionless, watching the road long after Grant had gone. Cole looked at the carriage house again. The old building seemed different now. Not abandoned, not forgotten, waiting. And for the first time since arriving, he found himself asking a new question. Not why Rose had left it to him, but why Grant wanted it so badly. Titan finally turned toward the carriage house. His ears lifted, his body stiffened. Then, without warning, he started walking toward the front door, as if he already knew exactly where they needed to go. And somewhere deep inside the mountains, hidden beyond old brick and forgotten walls, the first secret was already waiting for them. Titan moved across the gravel with quiet purpose. Cole followed. The old brass key felt heavy in his pocket. The carriage house stood at the edge of the forest where fog drifted between towering pines and bare-limbed oaks. Up close, the building looked older than it had from the road, much older. Time had not been kind. Cracks spread through the red brick walls. Moss climbed the foundation. Several second-floor windows were boarded shut. One shutter hung loose, tapping softly in the mountain trees. Tap, tap, tap. The sound echoed strangely through the valley. Titan stopped at the front door. The German shepherd sniffed once, then twice. His ears remained forward, alert, focused. Cole removed the key. The lock resisted at first. Rust groaned somewhere inside the mechanism. Then the door finally opened inward with a long wooden creak. Cold air spilled out, dust, old wood, stone, something else, something harder to identify. The scent of a place untouched for years. Titan entered first. Cole smiled faintly. Some things never changed. The dog had cleared doorways before him in half a dozen countries. Apparently, retirement hadn't changed that either. The interior remained surprisingly intact. The first floor had once housed horses. Now it served as storage. Old farm tools hung on walls. Broken furniture sat beneath dusty sheets. An antique wagon wheel leaned beside a stone fireplace large enough to stand inside. Cobwebs draped across ceiling beams. Yet despite the neglect, something felt strange. The building didn't feel abandoned. Not entirely. Cole couldn't explain why. He simply felt it. The same way he'd felt danger before seeing it. The same way experienced operators sensed when something wasn't right. Titan moved slowly through the room. His nose stayed low, working, evaluating, cataloging. Cole walked toward the fireplace. Above the mantel sat a single framed photograph. The glass was dusty, the image faded. He wiped it clean with his sleeve. Rose Whitaker smiled back at him. The picture had been taken years earlier. She looked younger, healthier, standing beside a horse near the very same carriage house. For reasons he couldn't explain, seeing her there made the place feel less empty, less forgotten. Then he noticed an envelope. It rested beside the photograph. His name was written across the front. Cole Brennan. The handwriting looked shaky, but deliberate. He opened it carefully. Inside sat a single sheet of paper. The message was short. Cole, if you're reading this, then you came. That means Titan came too. Good. Trust him. More than once, that dog will know something before you do. There are answers here, but not all at once. Stay longer than you planned, Rose. That was it. No explanation, no instructions, just a message. And one sentence that lingered. Trust him. Cole looked down at Titan. The dog was staring toward the back of the building, watching something, or listening. What did she know about you? Titan's tail flicked once. Outside, wind moved through the trees. The afternoon slipped quietly toward evening. Cole spent the next several hours exploring. The second floor contained a small apartment beneath the sloped roof. Dust covered everything. Yet, unlike the lower level, the rooms remained surprisingly organized. A couch, a kitchen table, bookshelves, an iron bed frame, a wood stove. Someone had cared for this place once, very much. By sunset, Cole made a decision. He would stay the night, maybe two. The truck remained parked outside. The apartment upstairs provided enough shelter, and honestly, he had nowhere else to be. As darkness settled over the valley, temperatures dropped quickly. Mountain nights came early. The forest beyond the carriage house became a wall of black shadows. Cole lit an old lantern he found in the kitchen. Golden light filled the room. Titan settled near the stove. For a while, everything felt peaceful, almost normal. Cole heated canned soup on a portable camp burner, shared crackers with Titan, listened to the wind outside. For the first time in months, he found himself imagining possibilities. Maybe he could fix the place. Not perfectly, but enough. A roof repair, new windows, a working stove. The thought surprised him. Hope had become unfamiliar territory. Around 10 o'clock, he finally climbed into bed. The mattress springs protested beneath his weight. The old building creaked softly around him. Titan remained downstairs, near the fireplace. Cole found that odd. Dog usually slept nearby, always had. He considered calling him upstairs. Instead, he closed his eyes. Sleep came slowly. Then the dreams arrived. A desert road, heat, dust. A convoy moving through hostile territory. Radio chatter crackling inside his headset. A young teammate laughing about something Cole couldn't remember. Then an explosion. Everything disappeared in white light. Cole woke instantly, heart hammering, sweat soaking his shirt. Darkness filled the room. For a moment he didn't know where he was. Afghanistan, Tennessee, past, present. The lines blurred, then he heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound came from downstairs. Cole sat upright, listening. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Titan. Cole checked his watch. 2:17 a.m. He climbed from bed. The wooden floor felt cold beneath his feet. Slowly he descended the staircase. Lantern light flickered below. Titan stood beside the stone fireplace, scratching the floorboards, not randomly, not playfully. The dog focused on one exact spot. His entire body seemed locked onto it. Titan. The scratching stopped. The dog looked up, then immediately returned to the same section of floor. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Cole walked closer. The floorboards looked normal, old, weathered, nothing unusual. He crouched beside them. Titan stepped back slightly, watching, waiting. Cole knocked against the wood, solid. He moved 6 inches left. Knocked again, different. A slightly deeper sound. His eyes narrowed. Interesting. He knocked again. Definitely different. Not hollow exactly, but close. Titan stared directly at him. Cole sat back. The same feeling he experienced during operations began crawling through his instincts. Something was here. Maybe not danger, but something. He ran his fingers across the boards. No visible seams, no handles, no openings. Nothing. Finally he stood. Tomorrow. Titan looked unconvinced. The dog settled beside the fireplace, but never fully relaxed. His eyes remained fixed on the floor. Cole returned upstairs. Sleep did not. By sunrise, he had managed perhaps another hour. The valley outside looked beautiful beneath morning fog. Sunlight spilled across distant ridges. Birdsong echoed through the trees. The world seemed peaceful, too peaceful. Cole brewed coffee. Titan refused breakfast. That alone was unusual, very unusual. The dog remained focused on the fireplace. Then around mid-morning something happened. Titan suddenly rushed toward the front door. Not barking, alerting. Cole reacted instantly. Years of training took over. He moved toward the window, carefully, slowly. A vehicle sat near the tree line, half hidden behind brush. Old pickup truck, dark color, engine off, no visible driver. Cole frowned. That truck hadn't been there yesterday. He stepped outside. The cold air hit his face. The truck remained motionless. No movement, no sound. Just sitting there, watching. After several minutes, he approached. The closer he got, the stranger it seemed. Nobody inside, no keys, no registration visible. Just an empty vehicle parked where it had no reason to be. Titan circled it twice, sniffed, then growled. Low, controlled. The same growl he'd used around Grant. Cole's instincts sharpened immediately. Two separate reactions. Same dog, same warning. Interesting? Very interesting. He returned to the carriage house uneasy. The feeling remained with him all afternoon. As though unseen eyes followed every movement. As though the mountains themselves were watching. That evening, rain arrived. Heavy mountain rain. Clouds swallowed the ridges. Thunder rolled across the valley. Water hammered against the roof. Inside, lantern light flickered across old brick walls. Titan remained beside the fireplace, refusing to leave. Hours passed. The storm intensified. Then shortly after midnight, another sound broke through the rain. A door hinge. Somewhere downstairs. Cole froze. His pulse accelerated instantly. Titan was already standing. Ears forward, body rigid. The sound came again. Soft, almost careful, not the front door, not the wind, something else, someone else. Cole moved silently toward the staircase, every sense awake now, every instinct alive. Titan stayed beside him. The rain battered the roof overhead. Thunder growled across the mountains. And somewhere inside the carriage house, hidden within the darkness below, something had just moved. For the first time since arriving, Cole realized Rose's inheritance might be far more complicated than a forgotten building, because somebody, or something, had been here recently, and judging by the fresh boot prints, the abandoned truck, and Titan's growing obsession with the fireplace, they might not be alone. The sound came again, soft, careful, a faint scrape somewhere below. Cole stood motionless at the top of the staircase. The lantern cast long shadows across the walls. Rain hammered the roof overhead. Titan's entire body had gone rigid. The German shepherd stared into the darkness below, waiting, listening. Cole reached automatically for the flashlight, clipped beside his backpack. His pulse slowed instead of rising. That was always the strange part. Fear sharpened him, focused him. Years of SEAL training had taught him how to function when adrenaline arrived. The challenge came afterward. When the danger passed, when the memories returned, he moved downstairs, step at a time. Titan stayed close. The old staircase creaked beneath their weight. The sound seemed impossibly loud. The room below remained empty. The fireplace, the wagon wheel, the furniture beneath dusty sheets. Nothing had moved. Nothing appeared disturbed. The scrape never came again. Cole checked every corner, every window, every door. Nothing. Finally, he stood beside the fireplace. Titan immediately returned to the same section of floorboards. The dog sat down, eyes fixed on the wood, almost stubbornly. "You're telling me something." Titan blinked. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. Cole stared at the floor for another moment, then shook his head. Whatever mystery hid beneath those boards would have to wait. For now. Morning eventually arrived beneath low clouds and steady drizzle. The valley looked gray and silent. Mist drifted through the trees. Water dripped from every branch. Cole stepped onto the porch with a cup of coffee and immediately noticed something strange. The abandoned pickup truck was gone. No tire tracks. No sign it had ever been there. Only wet gravel. His eyes narrowed. That wasn't possible. The vehicle had been real. He knew what he saw. Titan emerged beside him. The dog sniffed the air, then turned toward the forest, watching. Again, always watching. By mid-morning, Cole decided he needed information. Not guesses, not instincts, facts. The nearest town sat 15 minutes away. A small mountain community tucked between ridges and farmland. The kind of place where old men still gathered outside hardware stores, and everybody knew who belonged and who didn't. The diner sat beside the main road. A white building with a faded red sign and pickup trucks parked out front. Cole tied Titan's leash loosely around his wrist and stepped inside. Conversation softened slightly when he entered. Not stopped, just shifted. Small towns noticed strangers, especially strangers with military dogs. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the air. A waitress pointed him toward a booth. Titan settled beneath the table immediately. Professional as always. Cole ordered coffee and eggs. Before the food arrived, an older woman approached, late 60s, silver hair, kind eyes. She carried herself with quiet confidence. The confidence of someone who had spent a lifetime surviving hard things. "You must be Cole Brennan." Cole looked up. The woman smiled. "Word travels fast around here." "I've noticed," she laughed softly. "I'm Evelyn Carter." The name rang a bell. Rose's friend. The woman from the outline of stories Laura Hastings had briefly mentioned. Evelyn slid into the booth opposite him. Titan watched her carefully, then relaxed. "An important detail. Rose talked about you." Cole frowned. "How? More than you'd think." The waitress arrived with coffee. Neither spoke until she walked away. Then Evelyn leaned forward slightly. "She was hoping you'd come." That surprised him. "You knew about the inheritance?" "I knew she had plans." Evelyn glanced out the rain-streaked window toward the mountains. Rose spent years worrying about what would happen after she was gone. Cole stirred his coffee. What exactly was that carriage house? Evelyn's expression softened. "A refuge," the answer came immediately, as though she'd been waiting years to say it. "A refuge for who?" "Veterans." Silence. Cole looked up. Evelyn nodded. "For a long time." The woman wrapped both hands around her coffee mug. "Rose quietly helped people most folks ignored." She paused. "Especially veterans." Cole thought about the old carriage house differently now. The stocked kitchen, the organized apartment, the sense that somebody had cared. Suddenly it made more sense. Evelyn continued. "Some stayed a night, some stayed longer. Nobody asked questions." Cole listened carefully. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. Grant didn't like it. There it was, the nephew again. Evelyn's eyes darkened slightly. He wanted luxury cabins, tourism, development. He thought veterans scared investors. Cole felt anger stir beneath the surface. Not hot anger, cold anger, the dangerous kind. Evelyn noticed. Rose never trusted him. The statement lingered. Then she changed the subject. "What do you think of the property?" Cole considered the question. "Feels like somebody's still using it." Evelyn stopped smiling. "Interesting, very interesting." "You noticed that." Not a question, a statement. Cole sat forward slightly. "What do you mean?" The older woman hesitated. For the first time, then looked out toward the rain again. Rose became frightened near the end. "Of what? I don't know." But her face suggested otherwise. People who claim ignorance often know more than they admit. Before he could press further, Titan suddenly stood. The dog moved toward the diner window, alert, focused. Cole followed his gaze. A dark SUV sat across the street, parked. Engine running, the windows tinted. Impossible to identify the driver. Yet the vehicle felt familiar, too familiar. Evelyn saw it too. Her expression changed immediately. "That's the third time this week." Cole looked at her. "The third time what?" "The third time I've seen that vehicle." Neither spoke for several seconds. The rain intensified outside. The SUV remained parked, watching, then slowly pulled away, disappearing down the road. Titan remained at the window long after it left. Later that afternoon, Cole returned to the Carriage house. The mountains felt different now, less peaceful. The sense of isolation remained. But something else had joined it. Observation. The feeling that invisible eyes followed every movement. He noticed things he hadn't before. Fresh tire tracks near the gate, footprints beside the road, a broken branch near the tree line. Nothing definitive. Yet together they formed a pattern. Titan noticed too. The dog spent most of the afternoon patrolling the property perimeter, checking scents, checking trails, checking things only he understood. As evening approached, fog rolled down from the ridges. The forest darkened early. Cole carried firewood inside and lit the stove. Warmth slowly filled the old carriage house. The crackle of burning cedar echoed through the room. For a while, everything felt normal again. Then Titan growled. Cole immediately looked up. The dog stood beside the front window, watching the woods. A low rumble vibrated deep inside his chest, not fear, warning. Cole crossed the room, carefully. The forest beyond the glass had become a maze of shadows. Trees swayed in the wind. Fog drifted between trunks. Nothing moved. Then lightning flashed. For one brief second the mountains turned white, and Cole saw it. A figure, standing near the edge of the tree line. Motionless. Watching the carriage house, the flash vanished. Darkness returned. Cole rushed outside. Cold air hit him instantly. Rain stung his face. Titan sprinted ahead. The figure was gone. No footsteps, no voice, no movement, only fog. The forest swallowed everything. Titan searched frantically. Back and forth, nose working, body tense. Then suddenly the dog stopped, near a cluster of pines. Cole reached him moments later. Titan stared at the ground. There, pressed into the wet earth, sat a single boot print. Fresh, very fresh. Someone had been standing there, watching long enough to leave a clear impression. Cole crouched beside it. Military-style tread pattern, large, male, definitely not accidental. The realization settled heavily over him. The carriage house wasn't merely attracting attention. Someone was actively monitoring it. The question was why. Titan suddenly turned toward the deeper woods, growling again. This time louder, more urgent. Yet whatever had been there was already gone. The mountains offered no answers, only silence. That night, long after darkness swallowed the valley, Cole sat beside the fireplace, staring into the flames. Rain drummed softly against the roof. The boot print remained fresh in his mind. The SUV, the missing truck, the figure in the woods, Rose's fear, Grant's interest, none of it fit together. Not yet. Titan lay beside the fireplace, but he wasn't sleeping. His eyes remained open, watching the room, watching the floorboards, watching the darkness beyond the windows. Then, shortly after midnight, another sound drifted through the old carriage house. A faint mechanical buzz, almost electronic. Titan's head snapped upward instantly. Cole listened. The sound came from outside. Somewhere beyond the trees, a soft, blinking red light appeared briefly through the forest, then vanished. Cole stood. Titan was already moving toward the door. And for the first time since arriving in the valley, Cole realized the people watching the carriage house were becoming bolder. Whatever secret Rose Whitaker had hidden here, someone was getting nervous. And somewhere out in the darkness, beyond the tree line, another set of eyes was watching them both. The red light blinked once, then disappeared. Cole stood on the porch, staring into the forest. Rain drifted through the trees in silver sheets. Titan stood beside him, perfectly still, watching. The same way he had watched alleyways in foreign cities. The same way he had watched roads that might contain danger. Whatever the dog sensed out there, he took it seriously. very seriously. The forest gave them nothing. No movement, no voices, no answers, only darkness. Finally, Cole closed the door. The old lock clicked into place. Titan immediately returned to the fireplace. Not the window, not the door, the fireplace again. Cole stared at the dog, then at the floorboards, then back at the dog. The pattern had become impossible to ignore. Outside threats were one thing, but Titan kept returning to the same exact location inside the carriage house. The same patch of wood, the same section of floor, the same silent message. Look here. Cole grabbed the lantern, set it beside the fireplace, then crouched down. Titan moved closer immediately. His tail stayed low, his ears forward. The dog looked almost impatient. All right. Cole ran his fingers along the seams between the boards. The wood felt old, worn smooth by time. Nothing obvious, no handles, no hinges, no markings. He knocked again. One board, then another. Solid, solid, solid then. Thunk. Different. His eyes narrowed. There it was. That deeper sound again. Not hollow exactly, but close, very close. The storm continued outside. Thunder rolled across the mountains. Cole rose and searched the building. A few minutes later he returned, carrying an old pry bar he had found downstairs. Titan stood immediately. The dog knew. Somehow he knew. Cole slid the metal edge into a narrow crack between boards. Pulled. Nothing. He adjusted position. Pulled harder. Wood groaned. Dust drifted upward. Titan stepped back, watching, waiting. The board lifted slightly. Just enough. Cole worked slowly, carefully. Years of training had taught him patience. Rushing created mistakes. Eventually, one nail gave way. Then another. The board loosened. Finally, it came free. Cold air rushed upward. Titan froze. The dog didn't bark, didn't growl, just stared. Cole angled the lantern downward. His pulse quickened immediately. Not dirt, not stone. Steel, a steel surface hidden beneath the floor. The beam of lantern light reflected off rusted metal. Cole brushed away decades of dust. The outline emerged. A hatch. Large, rectangular, buried beneath the floorboards. What were you hiding, Rose? The question vanished into the storm. Titan stepped closer, sniffing. The dog circled once, then sat satisfied, as if he'd finally completed a task. Cole cleared away the remaining boards. The steel hatch became fully visible. Old military construction. Heavy. Industrial. Built to survive. A faded symbol appeared beneath layers of grime. Civil defense. Cold War era. His heart beat faster. A shelter, the realization landed immediately. Somebody had built a bunker beneath the carriage house. He searched for a handle. Found one. Rust covered the metal ring. It resisted at first, then finally moved. The hatch groaned. A deep metallic sound echoed through the floor. Titan backed away slightly, not fearful. Cautious, the seal broke. Cold air rolled upward. Earth, concrete, age. The scent carried decades of silence. Cole lifted the hatch higher. Darkness waited below. A ladder disappeared into the earth. The lantern beam barely reached the bottom. A small room. Concrete walls. No movement, no sound. Yet the feeling that had followed him since arriving returned stronger than ever. Not fear, anticipation. Titan stepped forward, placed one paw on the ladder, then looked back at Cole. The message was obvious. Let's go. Cole laughed softly despite himself. Still giving orders. The German shepherd descended first. One careful step at a time. Cole followed. The ladder creaked beneath his weight. The air grew colder, stiller. When his boots touched concrete, he raised the lantern higher. The underground room emerged from darkness. And immediately he understood this wasn't an ordinary shelter. Metal shelves lined the walls. Storage crates. Old filing cabinets, wooden trunks, boxes stacked with military precision. Dust covered everything. Yet the room remained organized, protected, preserved, as if somebody expected it to be found one day. Titan moved slowly through the space. His nails clicked softly against concrete. Cole walked toward the nearest shelf. A thick layer of dust coated every surface. Nobody had entered recently, at least not through the hatch. He brushed off one crate. The label had faded. Inside sat canned food, emergency supplies, blankets, medical kits, Cold War survival equipment, most of it decades old. Then he noticed something different. A wooden table against the far wall. Unlike everything else, it appeared relatively clean. Someone had used it. Not recently, but not decades ago either. Cole stepped closer. A tape recorder sat on the table. Beside it rested several cassette tapes, each one carefully labeled. His breath caught. One label read, "For Cole." Titan looked up immediately. Cole stared at the tape, then slowly sat down. His hands hesitated. The room felt suddenly smaller. He had expected secrets, maybe documents, maybe hidden property records. Not this, not something waiting specifically for him. He reached for the tape recorder. The machine looked old but functional. A fresh set of batteries sat beside it. That detail stopped him cold. Fresh batteries. Someone had replaced them. Not years ago. Recently. Very recently. The realization sent a chill through him. Somebody had been down here. Maybe Rose, maybe someone else. He inserted the cassette, pressed play. Static crackled through the underground room. Titan immediately moved closer. Then a voice emerged. Soft, older, familiar. Rose Whitaker. "If you're hearing this, Cole," the tape hissed. Then Titan found the room. Cole stared at the recorder. A strange feeling moved through his chest. The old woman sounded tired, but certain, as if she had known this moment would come. A faint cough interrupted the recording. Then her voice returned. "I always trusted that dog." Titan's ears lifted. The tape continued. More importantly, another pause. "I trusted you." Cole swallowed. The words landed harder than expected. Rose continued. "There are things hidden here that some people would rather keep buried." The room suddenly felt colder. The storm above seemed very far away. "You'll understand soon enough." A long silence followed. Then one final sentence. "The truth is worth protecting." The recording clicked off. Static filled the room, then silence. Cole sat motionless. Titan rested beside his chair. Neither moved, neither spoke. Above them, thunder rolled through the Smoky Mountains. Deep, distant, almost like a warning. Finally Cole stood. The tape was only the beginning. He knew that now. The room held far more. Boxes, files, cabinets, years of hidden history. But something else had caught his attention. A bulletin board mounted on the far wall. Dozens of photographs were pinned there. Most had curled with age. Some had faded. Cole approached slowly. His lantern illuminated the images one by one. Veterans, families, service dogs, mountain cabins, charity events, community gatherings. Rose appeared in many of them, always smiling, always helping. Then he saw something that stopped him completely. A photograph of himself. Cole stared. The image showed him sitting outside a church soup kitchen 3 winters earlier. Titan lay beside him. The photo had clearly been taken from a distance. His pulse jumped. He moved to the next picture. Another photograph. This one showed him helping an elderly man change a tire along a mountain road. Another. Cole carrying groceries for a stranger. Another. Titan standing beside him near a veterans outreach center. The dates beneath the photographs stretched back years. Years. Someone had been documenting his life. Quietly. Carefully. The realization hit like a physical blow. Rose hadn't chosen him randomly. She had been watching. For a very long time, Titan looked up at him. The dog seemed oddly calm, almost unsurprised, as though this discovery changed nothing. Perhaps it didn't. Perhaps Titan already understood something Cole didn't. A sudden sound echoed faintly above them. Both froze, footsteps very soft, somewhere inside the carriage house. Titan stood immediately. Every muscle tightened. The footsteps stopped. Silence followed. Cole extinguished the lantern. Darkness swallowed the bunker. They listened, waiting. Above them the old floor creaked once, then again. Someone was moving inside the carriage house. And they definitely weren't alone anymore. The darkness inside the bunker felt suddenly alive. Cole stood motionless. Titan stood beside him. Neither made a sound. The old tape recorder sat silent on the table. The photographs watched from the wall. Above them, another floorboard creaked. Slow, careful. Whoever was upstairs wasn't trying to live there. They were searching. Cole's pulse slowed. The same strange calm that had carried him through dangerous places returned. Fear sharpened into focus. Titan's ears pointed toward the ceiling. Waiting, listening. The footsteps moved again. 1, 2, 3, then stopped. Cole extinguished even the faint glow from the recorder display. Complete darkness swallowed the bunker. The smell of old concrete and dust filled the air. For several seconds, neither he nor Titan moved. Then came the sound of a door closing above. A soft thump. Silence followed. Long silence. Too long. Finally, Titan looked toward the ladder. Cole nodded. The dog climbed first. Careful. Controlled. By the time Cole reached the hatch, the carriage house stood empty. The front door remained locked. The windows untouched. No visible signs of entry. No evidence. Nothing. Yet somebody had been there. He knew it. Titan knew it. The dog moved through every room, checking corners, checking scents, searching. Finally, he stopped near the kitchen window. A low growl rumbled deep inside his chest. Cole approached. Outside, rain still drifted through the trees. The muddy ground beneath the window held one fresh footprint, a boot print, the same tread pattern he had found near the forest. Whoever entered the carriage house had escaped before they reached the bunker. The realization sent a chill through him. They had come looking for something. Something hidden. Something Rose wanted protected, and now they knew he was finding it. The storm continued through most of the night. Cole barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, the photographs returned. Images of his life. Moments he barely remembered. Moments nobody should have noticed. Yet Rose had. The thought refused to leave him. Near dawn, Titan finally rested beside the fireplace. Cole remained awake, watching the gray light slowly appear beyond the windows. The mountains emerged from darkness one ridge at a time. Fog drifted through the valley. The world felt quieter, but not safer. At sunrise, he descended into the bunker again, this time carrying coffee and questions. The tape recorder waited exactly where he left it. Several more cassettes sat beside it, each carefully labeled. Titan followed him down. The dog settled beside the table. Cole picked up the next tape. For Cole, Part 2. His thumb hovered over the play button. Then he pressed it. Static crackled softly. Rose's voice returned, older, tired, but steady. "Good morning, Cole." The words sounded almost personal, like she knew exactly when he would listen. "I imagine by now you're confused." A faint cough interrupted her. Then she continued. "You probably think I left you a building." Silence. "No." Another pause. "I left you a responsibility." Cole leaned back slowly. The bunker suddenly felt smaller. Rose continued. "For years I watched people pass through these mountains. Tourists, developers, investors." Her tone changed slightly. "But I also watched veterans." The tape hissed softly. "Men and women who came home carrying invisible wounds." Cole lowered his eyes. Titan rested his head against his boot. Rose continued. "Many of them disappeared. Not physically, emotionally." The words landed hard, because they were true. Cole knew. He had spent years becoming invisible, sleeping in parking lots, truck stops, roadside rest areas, places where nobody asked questions, places where nobody noticed. Rose's voice softened. "Then one day I noticed a man carrying food to another veteran outside a shelter." Cole froze. The memory surfaced immediately. Winter, Knoxville. Freezing rain, a hungry stranger, his last meal. He had forgotten the moment. Rose hadn't. The recording continued. "Later, I saw that same man spend an entire night in his truck because the shelter wouldn't allow his dog inside." Cole looked down at Titan. The German shepherd's eyes remained closed. Rose's voice trembled slightly. "You chose the dog." A long pause followed. "I never forgot that." Cole swallowed hard. The tape continued. I watched you help stranded travelers, broken animals, people nobody else saw. You never asked for recognition. You never asked for rewards. Another pause. You simply kept protecting people. The room grew quiet. Only the faint hiss of the tape remained. Then came the sentence that struck deeper than anything before it. Good men don't stop being protectors when life breaks them. Cole closed his eyes. The words reached places he usually kept locked away. Afghanistan. Lost teammates, failed missions, survivor's guilt. Years of wondering whether he deserved to come home. The memories arrived all at once. A desert road, rotor blades, dust, smoke, radio traffic, names he still remembered, faces he never forgot. His breathing changed, faster, shallower. Titan immediately stood. The dog moved closer, rested his muzzle against Cole's knee, grounding him, the same way he had done 1,000 times before. Cole opened his eyes, focused on the dog, focused on the bunker, focused on now. The flashback slowly released its grip. Rose's voice continued. If you're listening to this, then Titan is still with you. A faint smile touched Cole's face. The tape crackled softly. That doesn't surprise me. Another pause. That dog knows who you are better than you do. Cole looked at Titan again. The shepherd watched him quietly, faithfully, without judgment, without expectations, just loyalty, pure and simple. Rose continued. People often think courage means never breaking. Her breathing sounded weaker now. But that's wrong. The tape hissed. Courage is getting up after life breaks you. Another pause. And helping somebody else stand. The words settled deep inside him. Deeper than he wanted to admit. The recording eventually ended. But Cole didn't stop it immediately. He sat there, silent. The bunker around him faded away. For years he had believed nobody noticed, nobody cared, nobody understood. He had become invisible. At least that's what he told himself. But Rose had seen everything. The kindness, the failures, the pain, the loyalty, all of it. And somehow she had looked past the homeless veteran sleeping in a truck, past the PTSD, past the scars. She had seen value. The realization hurt because it felt good. And good things had become unfamiliar. Titan nudged his hand. Cole scratched behind the dog's ears. The shepherd leaned into the touch. For several moments, neither moved. The silence felt different now. Not empty, comfortable. Then Cole noticed something else on the table. A folder, one he hadn't examined before. His name appeared on the front. He opened it carefully. Inside sat dozens of notes. Observations written in Rose's handwriting. Small moments. Ordinary moments. Yet each one described him. Shared blankets with elderly veteran during snowstorm. Helped injured hiker, despite needing medical care himself. Refused reward money. Stayed with abandoned dog until rescue arrived. Page after page, year after year, Cole stared. The room blurred slightly. Not because of fear. Not because of anger. Something else. Something harder. The feeling of finally being seen. Titan rested his head against Cole's leg again, as if understanding, as if he always had. Then another item slipped from the folder. A photograph. Cole picked it up. The image showed him standing beside Rose during the flood years earlier. Water everywhere, rain pouring down. Titan younger, stronger. Rose smiling despite the disaster around them. On the back she had written one sentence. Some people save lives without realizing it. Cole stared at the handwriting. For a long time. Above them, sunlight finally broke through the clouds. Thin beams of gold slipped through cracks in the floorboards. The bunker brightened slightly. For the first time since arriving in the mountains, something inside him shifted. Not healing, not yet, but movement, the smallest step, the smallest spark. Hope! Then Titan suddenly lifted his head. Alert, instantly alert. Cole recognized the change immediately. The dog turned toward the ceiling, listening. A vehicle engine echoed faintly outside. Not passing, approaching, slowly, deliberately. Cole stood. Titan was already moving toward the ladder. Somebody had arrived at the carriage house. and based on the look in Titan's eyes, it wasn't a friendly visit. The engine noise grew louder. Gravel crunched outside. Cole climbed out of the bunker and lowered the hatch carefully into place. Within seconds, the hidden room disappeared beneath the floorboards once again. Titan stood near the front window, focused, ready. The old SEAL moved beside him and peered through a narrow gap in the curtain. A black SUV rolled to a stop near the gate. Not unfamiliar, he recognized it immediately, Grant Whitaker. The developer climbed out carrying a leather folder beneath one arm. Expensive jacket, expensive boots. The kind of confidence that came from never worrying about bills, or winter, or where to sleep. Titan's lips pulled back slightly. Not enough to show aggression. Enough to show distrust. Grant noticed the dog through the glass. His smile tightened. Then he started walking toward the porch. Cole opened the door before he could knock. Cold mountain air swept inside. Fog drifted across the valley behind Grant. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Grant glanced around the carriage house, taking inventory, measuring, calculating. Finally, he smiled. You settled in. Cole remained leaning against the doorframe. Depends on your definition of settled. Grant laughed softly. The sound never reached his eyes. Titan stepped forward, immediately placing himself between Cole and the visitor. Grant noticed, again. The developer's smile faded slightly. Your dog doesn't seem to like me. He usually has a reason. That answer lingered. Grant adjusted his jacket, then held up the leather folder. I came to make your life easier. Cole already disliked where the conversation was going. How? Grant opened the folder. Several documents rested inside. Property maps, survey reports, financial projections. The language of developers. The language of acquisition. That carriage house sits in the middle of a future resort expansion. Grant spoke smoothly, like a salesman rehearsing a pitch. Cabins, trails, tourism, jobs. Cole said nothing. Grant continued. I'll give you $100,000. The words hung in the cold air. Titan didn't move. Neither did Cole. Grant smiled. 100,000 cash, enough to start over. The irony almost made Cole laugh. 2 weeks ago, he couldn't afford a motel room. Now someone wanted to hand him 6 figures for a collapsing carriage house. That alone told him everything. The building mattered. A lot. Not interested. Grant blinked once, surprised. Maybe nobody told him no very often. You didn't even think about it. I already did. Grant's expression hardened, only slightly. You sure? Cole folded his arms. Very. Silence followed. Wind moved through the trees. The mountains watched. Finally, Grant closed the folder. That's unfortunate. The friendliness began slipping. Little by little. Like paint peeling from old wood. Grant looked toward Titan, then back toward Cole. My aunt wasn't always rational near the end. There it was. The first crack. The first glimpse beneath the mask. Cole watched him carefully. Rose seemed pretty clear-minded to me. Grant's jaw tightened, barely. People get sentimental when they age. Cole remained silent. Grant shifted strategies immediately. A businessman adapting. Look, I'm trying to be fair. The property needs major repairs. Taxes, insurance, maintenance. His eyes drifted toward the carriage house. Places like this become expensive very quickly. Cole already knew that. But something else bothered him. Grant wasn't looking at the house. He kept looking at the fireplace. Small glances, quick glances, yet noticeable. Cole filed that observation away. Grant eventually stepped back. The smile returned, artificial, polished. If you change your mind, call me. He handed over a business card. Cole didn't take it. Titan's growl deepened slightly. Grant tucked the card back into his pocket. Think about it. Then he walked away. The SUV disappeared into the fog several minutes later. Titan remained on the porch long after the vehicle vanished. Watching, listening. The dog wasn't fooled. Neither was Cole. The visit had confirmed one thing. Grant wanted something. Something important. And he was nervous, very nervous. That afternoon, the mountains seemed to change, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. A white pickup truck parked near the road, two men pretending to survey property lines, a drone hovering briefly above the valley before disappearing behind the trees, fresh tire tracks near the gate. The feeling of observation intensified. Everywhere. Titan noticed everything. The dog repeatedly patrolled the property perimeter, checking scents, checking trails, checking the woods. Near sunset, he stopped beside a pine tree 50 yards behind the carriage house. His body stiffened. Cole approached, then saw it, a trail camera, mounted chest high, hidden among branches. The tiny red indicator light blinked steadily. Recording, watching. Cole removed the camera carefully. The memory card remained inside, fresh, active. Someone had installed it recently, very recently. The realization sent anger through him. Not fear, anger. Someone was monitoring the property, monitoring him. Titan sniffed the base of the tree, then moved farther into the woods. Another camera, then another. 3 total. Positioned strategically around the carriage house. Professional setup. Expensive equipment. This wasn't random curiosity. It was surveillance. Someone wanted to know exactly what happened on the property. Every movement, every visitor, every discovery. As darkness settled over the valley, Cole returned to the bunker. The hidden room felt safer than the house above, safer than the woods, safer than the world. He opened more of Rose's files. The deeper he looked, the stranger things became. Veteran assistance records, property deeds, financial statements, maps, hundreds of pages. Titan slept beside the table while Cole worked. Hours passed. Then something finally caught his attention. A folder labeled Whitaker Development Holdings. Cole opened it. His expression changed immediately. Bank transfers, wire records, corporate filings, photocopies. Every page connected to Grant. The amounts grew larger the deeper he read. Hundreds of thousands, then millions. Funds moved through shell companies, property acquisitions, non-profit grants, housing assistance money, veteran support funds, all redirected elsewhere. Cole stared. The evidence appeared overwhelming. The documents suggested something much larger than simple greed. Millions intended for housing programs had vanished, moved through layers of corporations connected to Grant's business empire. The room suddenly felt colder. Titan lifted his head, noticing the change. Cole continued reading. Another folder, more transfers, more records, then photographs, old cabins, veteran shelters, community properties, many later sold, many later demolished. Each transaction connected somehow to Grant's companies. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Someone had been stealing from programs designed to help struggling veterans, and Rose had documented everything. Every piece, every detail, every dollar. No wonder somebody was watching the carriage house. No wonder somebody had entered the building. No wonder Grant wanted the property so badly. The evidence wasn't just valuable, it was dangerous. For him, for everyone involved. Near midnight, a loud knock echoed through the house. Titan was on his feet instantly. Cole extinguished the lantern. Darkness swallowed the bunker. Another knock followed. Then a voice, female, older, familiar. Cole? Evelyn Carter. Relief arrived immediately. He climbed the ladder and emerged into the carriage house. Titan followed. When he opened the door, cold air rushed inside. Evelyn stood on the porch, holding a casserole dish wrapped in foil. The sight felt almost absurd after the tension of the day. Yet her expression wasn't casual. It was worried, very worried. I saw Grant's SUV. Cole stepped aside. She entered. Titan relaxed immediately. Evelyn placed the dish on the kitchen table, then turned toward him. What did he want? To buy the property. She nodded, as if expecting that answer. How much? 100,000. A bitter laugh escaped her. Oh, he's scared. Cole studied her. You seem sure. I am. Evelyn moved toward the window, watching the darkness outside. Grant never overpays unless he's protecting something. The room fell quiet. Titan settled near the fireplace. The older woman turned back toward Cole. Rose knew this day might come. Cole's attention sharpened. "What do you mean?" Evelyn hesitated, then slowly sat down. The expression on her face changed: sadness, memory, regret. 6 months before she died, Evelyn lowered her voice. "Rose told me she believed someone would eventually come looking for the files." Cole said nothing. The older woman continued. "She didn't trust Grant anymore." Outside, wind moved through the trees. The carriage house creaked softly. Rose said if anything happened to her. Evelyn swallowed. The truth would eventually end up in the hands of a protector. Cole looked away briefly, toward Titan, toward the fireplace, toward everything Rose had left behind. Evelyn followed his gaze, then smiled sadly. "I think she chose correctly." For several moments nobody spoke. The mountain remained silent beyond the windows. Then Titan suddenly stood. Every muscle tightened. The dog moved toward the front door, alert, focused, watching. Cole felt it immediately. Something was wrong, very wrong. A second later, headlights appeared through the trees. Not one vehicle, several, moving slowly up the mountain road, toward the carriage house. And judging by the way Titan growled, whoever was coming wasn't there to make another offer. The headlights climbed slowly through the fog, one vehicle, then another, then a third farther behind. Their beams drifted through the trees like pale ghosts moving between the trunks. Cole stood beside the front window. Titan remained motionless. The German shepherd's growl vibrated through the floorboards. Low, steady, danger. Evelyn Carter looked toward the road and frowned. "That's not normal." "No," Cole said quietly. "It isn't." The vehicles stopped before reaching the carriage house. Engines idled. Nobody got out. For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Just 3 sets of headlights glowing through the mist. Watching. Waiting. Then, one by one, the vehicles turned around and disappeared down the mountain road. Silence returned. Evelyn exhaled slowly. Message received. Cole nodded. He understood. Someone wanted him to know they were there. Nothing more, nothing less. Titan continued staring at the darkness long after the lights vanished. The dog wasn't convinced the threat had passed. Neither was Cole. By midnight, the mountain had settled into uneasy quiet. Wind moved through the pines. Clouds covered the moon. The carriage house creaked softly around them. Evelyn had long since gone home. Cole sat beside the fireplace, reviewing more of Rose's documents. Titan rested nearby. At least he appeared to be resting. Every few minutes, one ear twitched toward the door, toward the windows, toward the world outside, always listening. Cole opened another folder. Inside were financial records connected to veteran housing grants. The numbers made his stomach tighten. Millions of dollars, enough to change lives, enough to build communities, enough to provide homes. Gone, transferred, disappeared. Page after page connected the money to companies linked to Grant Whitaker. The deeper Cole looked, the uglier the picture became. Titan suddenly lifted his head, instantly alert. Cole froze. The dog stood, nostrils flaring. The shepherd moved toward the front door, then toward the back window, then back again. Confused, agitated. Something was wrong, very wrong. "Titan." The dog ignored him. His nose worked the air repeatedly. Cole rose, crossed the room, opened the front door. Cold air swept inside. Nothing unusual, just forest, fog, darkness. Then he smelled it. Faint, almost hidden beneath the scent of wet earth. Kerosene. Every muscle in his body tightened. Titan barked once, sharp, urgent, not a warning, an alarm. Cole rushed off the porch. The smell grew stronger immediately. He rounded the side of the building, stopped cold. A glistening trail covered the ground beside the wall. Liquid, fresh, reflecting moonlight, kerosene. His pulse exploded. "Titan!" The dog was already moving, racing toward the rear corner of the carriage house. Cole followed, then saw movement, a dark figure sprinting toward the trees, too far away to identify. Gone almost immediately into the darkness. but the message was clear. Somebody had just been here. Somebody had just soaked the building. Then everything happened at once. A sudden flash, a burst of orange. Fire erupted along the front porch. Woomph! Flames raced upward instantly. The accelerant ignited in a violent wave. Heat slammed into the night. Cole staggered backward. The entire railing caught fire within seconds. Titan barked furiously. The blaze spread faster than seemed possible, up the walls, across the roofline. Through old, dry timber, years of age became fuel. The carriage house transformed into a torch. Cole sprinted toward his truck, grabbed the fire extinguisher, returned at full speed. Smoke poured into the sky. The extinguisher blasted white foam across the porch. For a brief moment the flames weakened, then reignited, stronger. The fire had already reached inside. Cole felt the temperature rising, the roar growing louder. The old memories arrived without warning. Afghanistan, burning structures, collapsed compounds, heat, smoke, chaos. His breathing shortened. The edges of reality blurred. Titan barked again. Louder, closer. Cole turned. The dog wasn't beside him anymore. Titan was running toward the front door. No! Too late. The German shepherd vanished into the burning carriage house. Cole's heart stopped. Titan. Flames rolled through the doorway. Smoke exploded from broken windows. For one horrifying second he froze. Not from fear, from memory. The battlefield and the mountain collided. Present and past merged together. Burning buildings, lost teammates, screaming radios, smoke, heat, failure. The old nightmare tightened around him. Titan's bark echoed from inside. Everything snapped back. Move! The command hit like lightning. Cole charged into the fire. Heat slammed against him instantly. The inside of the carriage house looked like another world. Orange light, black smoke, collapsing beams. The ceiling crackled overhead. Titan barked again. From near the fireplace, Cole stumbled forward through the smoke, eyes burning, lungs protesting. Then he saw him. The German shepherd lay trapped beside the fireplace. A heavy timber beam had collapsed across his rear legs. Titan struggled, growled, tried pulling free, couldn't. The bunker hatch. Cole understood immediately. The dog had run back to protect Rose's files, protect the truth, protect the mission. Even now, even here. Titan! The shepherd's ears lifted. Cole dropped beside him. The beam was burning, heavy. Far heavier than it looked. He grabbed it anyway. Pain shot through his hands. He shoved upward. Nothing. The timber barely moved. Titan whined. Not from fear, from frustration. He still wanted to fight. Still wanted to help. The roof groaned above them. Another section collapsed somewhere deeper inside the house. Sparks showered across the room. Cole planted his feet. Pushed again. Every muscle strained. The beam shifted. An inch, then another. Titan immediately dragged himself forward. One leg moved, the other didn't. The dog cried out. Cole ignored the fear rising inside him. They didn't have time. Another crash echoed overhead. The structure was failing. Fast. Cole wrapped both arms around Titan, lifted him. The shepherd weighed nearly 90 pounds, normally manageable. Not now, not in smoke, not in fire. Not while fighting panic. The doorway looked impossibly far away. Cole forced himself forward. One step, then another, then another. The ceiling exploded behind them. A shower of burning wood crashed into the room. Heat rolled across his back. Titan buried his face against Cole's shoulder, trusting him completely, the way he always had. Together they burst through the doorway. Seconds later, the front windows shattered. Glass erupted outward. Flames consumed the room they had just escaped. Cole collapsed onto wet gravel, Titan beside him. Both coughing, both shaking. The carriage house burned against the mountain night. The fire reflected in Titan's eyes. The dog tried standing, immediately collapsed. Cole's stomach dropped. The rear leg hung at an unnatural angle. Bad. Very bad. Titan, the shepherd, looked up. Tail moved once, just once. Still alive, still fighting. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Far away, not fast enough. Cole pulled Titan closer. Smoke drifted upward into the darkness. The mountain glowed orange. The old carriage house, Rose's carriage house. The place she had trusted him with. The place that held her secrets, her mission, her faith, collapsed inward, one burning beam at a time. Then another sound reached him. An engine, not a fire truck, not a sheriff. A vehicle somewhere beyond the trees, watching, waiting, the same way the others had watched. Cole looked toward the forest. For a split second, he thought he saw headlights moving away through the darkness, leaving, escaping, the arsonist disappearing into the mountain night. Then the lights vanished, gone, as if they had never been there. Titan's breathing grew weaker. Cole looked down immediately. The dog trembled in his arms. Smoke stained his fur. Blood darkened one leg. Yet even now, Titan's eyes remained fixed on the burning carriage house, watching, protecting, refusing to quit. The distant sirens grew louder, finally. But as Cole held his partner, beside the burning remains of the only home either of them had known in years, one terrifying thought echoed through his mind. The files, the bunker, the evidence. If the fire reached the hidden room beneath the carriage house, everything Rose had died protecting might already be gone. The thought stayed with Cole as sirens finally climbed the mountain road. Red and blue lights flashed through the smoke. Fire engines, sheriff's deputies, emergency responders. Their voices sounded distant, muted, almost underwater. Because none of it mattered right now. Only Titan. Cole knelt beside the German shepherd on the wet gravel. The dog's breathing came in shallow bursts. Smoke clung to his fur. One rear leg lay twisted beneath him. The injury looked worse every second. Yet Titan never stopped watching Cole, not once, even now, even in pain. The old dog seemed more concerned about his partner than himself. A firefighter approached. Then another. Someone asked questions. Cole barely heard them. Titan lifted his head weakly. His tail moved once against the ground. The sight nearly broke him. "Stay with me, buddy," his voice cracked. The words came out rough. The way words do when they have to fight through fear. The way words do when they matter. A female deputy knelt beside him, mid-30s, dark hair, sharp eyes, competent, calm. "I'm Deputy Rachel Monroe." Cole looked at her. Barely. She glanced at Titan's injuries. Then, toward the burning carriage house. The roof collapsed inward with a shower of sparks. Rachel's expression hardened. Someone did this. Not a question, a fact. Cole nodded. Kerosene, the deputy immediately stood. Started issuing instructions. Fire investigators, perimeter searches, evidence teams. The machine of law enforcement suddenly came alive around them. But Cole barely noticed. His entire world had narrowed to one wounded dog. A veterinary transport truck arrived 20 minutes later. The nearest emergency animal hospital sat nearly an hour away. The technicians moved carefully, professionally. Yet Titan growled when they approached. Not aggressively, protectively. His eyes never left Cole. The older technician smiled softly. "He wants you to come." Cole climbed into the back without hesitation. The vehicle pulled away from the mountain. The burning remains of the carriage house disappeared behind them. Smoke rose into the night sky. The last thing Cole saw was the silhouette of the old chimney standing alone among the flames. Then the mountain vanished behind darkness. The drive felt endless. Titan lay on a blanket-covered stretcher. An oxygen mask covered part of his muzzle. Machines monitored his condition. The steady beeping filled the compartment. Every sound made Cole think of hospitals, combat aid stations, field tents, medical evacuations. Memories pressed against the edges of his mind. Waiting, the smell made it worse. Antiseptic, burned material, fear. Too familiar, much too familiar. Titan shifted slightly. The dog winced. Cole immediately placed a hand against his neck. The shepherd relaxed just enough. The gesture reminded him of another night, years ago. Afghanistan. A different evacuation, a different injury. A younger Titan, the dog had saved 3 lives during that mission, including Cole's. Now everything felt reversed. Now it was Cole trying to save him. The veterinary hospital stood on the edge of Knoxville. Bright lights, clean walls, automatic doors. The sort of place people never expected to visit until they had no choice. Technicians rushed Titan inside. The movement became sudden, fast, efficient, a blur of voices, equipment, doors opening and closing. Then the shepherd disappeared beyond a treatment room. Just like that, gone. The silence afterward hit harder than the fire. Cole sat alone in the waiting room. Smoke stained his clothes. Burns marked his hands. His eyes felt raw. The clock on the wall read 2:14 a.m. Every minute moved painfully slowly. Hours seemed trapped, frozen. A television played quietly in the corner. Nobody watched it. A receptionist shuffled paperwork behind the desk. Outside, rain tapped against the windows. The world continued, indifferent, as it always did. Cole stared at the floor. His thoughts drifted, not toward Rose, not toward Grant, not toward the evidence, toward Titan. The first day they met, a military kennel in Virginia. A stubborn working dog that refused every handler assigned to him. Except one Cole. Nobody knew why. The connection happened immediately. Trust. Pure and simple. Years later they had deployed together, served together, survived together. When the military finally retired Titan, there had never been a question. The dog came home with him, or what remained of home. A voice interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Brennan." Cole stood instantly. A veterinarian approached, middle-aged, tired eyes, kind face. Her expression revealed everything before she spoke. Not hopeless, but serious, very serious. "He's alive." The words hit like a wave. Relief arrived so suddenly it hurt. The doctor continued. "He has smoke inhalation, burn injuries, and a fractured rear leg." Cole listened carefully. Every word mattered. "We've stabilized him." She paused. "The next 12 hours are important." The relief faded slightly. Not gone, tempered, reality returning. "Will he walk again?" The question escaped before he could stop it. The veterinarian hesitated. A long hesitation. The kind nobody wants to hear. "We think so." Not certainty. Hope, only hope. Cole nodded slowly. It would have to be enough. An hour later, they allowed him into recovery. Titan lay beneath blankets. Bandages covered part of his body. An IV line ran into one paw. Machines monitored his breathing. The sight hurt more than any injury Cole had suffered himself. The shepherd looked smaller somehow. Older, fragile. Yet when Cole entered the room, Titan opened one eye. His tail thumped once. Weakly, but it moved. Cole sat beside him. Placed a hand gently against his neck. Titan relaxed immediately. The room fell quiet. Only the soft hum of medical equipment remained. For the first time that night, Cole allowed himself to breathe. Deputy Rachel Monroe arrived shortly before dawn. She carried a cardboard evidence box beneath one arm. The deputy looked exhausted, but determined. "Mind if I sit?" Cole nodded. She lowered herself into a chair. For several moments, neither spoke. Both looked at Titan. Finally, Rachel broke the silence. The fire was intentional. Cole wasn't surprised. Kerosene. She nodded. Multiple ignition points. The confirmation settled heavily between them. Rachel placed the evidence box on the floor. "We also recovered several trail cameras." Cole looked up. The deputy continued. "Professional equipment. Somebody spent a lot of money monitoring that property." Neither needed to say Grant's name. It hovered between them anyway. Rachel leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about the files." Cole hesitated. Trust had become expensive, but Rose's mission depended on the truth. Slowly, he explained. The bunker, the records, the shell companies, the missing funds, the surveillance, the photographs, the recordings. Rachel listened carefully, never interrupting, never judging. When he finished, she sat quietly for several seconds, then exhaled. "That's bigger than local corruption." Cole already knew. The deputy rubbed tired eyes. If those records survived the fire, they could change everything. Could. The word lingered. Could, not will, because nobody knew. The bunker remained beneath a collapsed building, maybe protected, maybe destroyed, maybe both. Rachel eventually stood. "We'll find out." The certainty in her voice sounded genuine. Before leaving, she looked down at Titan, then back at Cole. "You know something?" Cole waited. "I've interviewed a lot of people over the years." She smiled faintly. "I've never seen a dog fight harder for someone." The room grew quiet again. After she left, Cole remained beside the recovery bed. Morning sunlight slowly filled the room. Soft gold spilled through the windows. Outside, the storm had finally passed. The world looked cleaner, brighter. Yet inside him, everything still felt uncertain. Titan slept. Machines hummed. Time crawled. Around noon, the dog finally woke, fully woke, his eyes focused immediately, searching, finding Cole. The shepherd relaxed. A small tail thump followed. Cole laughed softly. The sound surprised him. Because it had been a long time since he laughed. A very long time. Titan watched him, then slowly lifted his head. Despite the pain, despite the exhaustion, despite everything, the dog wanted to be sure, wanted confirmation. Cole understood. He leaned forward, rested his forehead gently against Titan's. "We're still here." The shepherd's eyes closed again, satisfied, trusting, safe for now. But as Cole sat beside the only family he had left, another thought returned. The fire wasn't the end. It was a beginning. Someone had tried to destroy the truth. Someone had failed. And somewhere back in the Smoky Mountains, buried beneath the ashes of the Carriage house, Rose Whitaker's final secret was still waiting to be discovered. 3 days later, snow began falling across the higher ridges of the Smokies. The mountains looked peaceful from a distance. White peaks, dark pine forests, thin ribbons of fog curling through valleys. But Cole knew better. The mountains were holding their breath, and so was he. Titan remained at the veterinary hospital. The shepherd was stronger now, still weak, still hurting, but alive. Every morning before sunrise, Cole drove from the small motel room provided by a veterans charity and sat beside Titan for hours. The old dog rarely slept deeply anymore. Whenever Cole stood to leave, Titan's eyes followed him. Whenever Cole returned, the shepherd relaxed. As if the simple act of seeing him again made the pain easier to bear. On the 4th morning, Deputy Rachel Monroe entered the recovery room, carrying a thick evidence folder. Her expression told Cole everything. They had found something. Fire crews finally cleared enough debris. Cole looked up immediately. "The bunker?" Rachel nodded. The entrance survived. A rush of emotion crossed his face. Relief, disbelief, hope, all arriving at once. The deputy pulled a chair closer. The fire damaged part of the structure, but the underground shelter protected most of the contents. Cole closed his eyes briefly. Rose had been right. The truth had survived. Rachel opened the folder. Photographs, financial records, property maps, statements, dozens of documents. Far more than local investigators expected. The State Financial Crimes Division is involved now. Cole listened quietly. The FBI is reviewing several transactions. Rachel flipped another page. Millions of dollars, over nearly 10 years, disappearing through fake development projects. Cole wasn't surprised anymore. Grant's desperation suddenly made perfect sense. The fire, the threats, the surveillance. It had never been about the Carriage house. It had always been about whatever Rose was hiding. Rachel hesitated, then reached into the folder. There was something else. She handed him a small plastic evidence bag. Inside sat a cassette tape, old, labeled in fading blue ink. For Cole, last recording, his heartbeat slowed. The room suddenly felt smaller. Rachel watched him carefully. "We found it hidden inside a metal container." Cole stared at the tape. Rose's handwriting, the same careful letters, the same steady hand, the final message. For a moment neither spoke. Then Rachel stood. "I thought you'd want to hear it yourself." She quietly left the room. The door clicked shut behind her. Silence returned. Titan lifted his head slightly from the blanket, His ears twitched, watching, waiting. Cole looked at the tape for a long time, then finally stood. An old cassette player sat inside the evidence box, recovered from the bunker, protected from the fire, protected from time. He inserted the tape, pressed play. Static filled the room, soft, crackling, ancient. Then Rose Whitaker's voice emerged, older, weaker, but unmistakably hers. "If you're hearing this, Cole," a pause, a cough, "then I was right about you." Cole lowered his eyes. Titan watched him. Rose continued. "I knew you would stay. More static, more breathing. I knew Titan would make sure of that." The faintest smile crossed Cole's face. Even now she understood. The recording continued. When people hear the word inheritance, they think of money. They think of land. They think of property. Another pause. Then her voice softened. But that was never the inheritance. Cole looked toward the window. Snow drifted slowly beyond the glass. The world outside seemed to disappear. Only the voice remained. "When my husband returned from Vietnam," Rose said quietly, "he wasn't the same man." The room fell still. He carried things home, things nobody could see. Cole understood immediately. The kind of wounds that didn't bleed. The kind that followed people for decades. He struggled. He suffered. And too many people looked away. Rose's breathing became uneven. "I promised myself I would never look away." Cole swallowed hard. Titan slowly rested his chin against the blanket. "Listening," Rose continued. "Years later, I started helping veterans. Not because I was special. Because somebody once helped my husband." The tape crackled softly. Then came the revelation. The moment everything changed. The Carriage house was never meant to belong to one person. Cole frowned. Rose's voice strengthened slightly. "The property beneath that valley is protected by an independent trust." A long pause followed. "The trust owns more than the Carriage house." Cole sat perfectly still. "The trust owns the entire eastern ridge, the creek, the pasture, the barns, the surrounding acreage." His eyes widened. "The inheritance was bigger than anyone knew. Much bigger," Rose continued. "For 20 years I quietly transferred land into the trust, one parcel at a time, so nobody would notice." Cole leaned forward. The old tape hissed. The purpose was simple. A permanent refuge. The words hung in the air. "A permanent refuge," Rose continued. "For veterans, for retired service dogs, for people who needed a place to stop running." Tears formed in Cole's eyes before he realized it. Not because of the land, not because of the money, because of the mission. Because suddenly everything made sense. The photographs, the recordings, the years of observation. Rose wasn't searching for an heir. She was searching for a guardian. The tape continued. "I watched dozens of people over the years. Good people, successful people, wealthy people." Her voice softened. "But I chose you." Cole closed his eyes. A lump formed in his throat. "Not because you were perfect. Because you never stopped protecting others." Another pause, longer this time. "I watched you share food when you were hungry. I watched you stay outside shelters because Titan wasn't allowed inside. I watched you help strangers when nobody was helping you." The words landed harder than any compliment ever had, because they came from someone who truly saw him. Not the homeless veteran, not the broken SEAL, not the man sleeping in a truck. The man underneath all of it. Rose's voice weakened again. "The world has enough owners. It needs more caretakers." Silence followed. Several seconds. Only static. Then one final revelation. "The documents proving Grant's crimes are inside the trust archive. Federal investigators will know what to do with them." Cole looked down. The entire case, the fraud, the theft, the conspiracy. Rose had already anticipated everything. The tape hissed softly. Then came her final words, the words that would stay with him forever. "Cole, if you're listening." Then the inheritance worked. A faint laugh escaped the recording. Tired, gentle, kind. "Because you're still here." The tape clicked. Static returned. Then silence. Complete silence. The room felt different afterward, larger somehow, brighter, as if a door had opened. Cole sat motionless. The recording over, the mission beginning. Titan slowly lifted his head. The shepherd stared at him. Those familiar brown eyes, steady, loyal, certain. Cole reached down and scratched behind one ear. Titan's tail thumped weakly. One time, then again, as if he already understood, as if he'd known all along. Hours later, Rachel Monroe returned. She found Cole sitting quietly beside the window. Snow continued falling beyond the glass, the mountains disappearing beneath white. He handed her the cassette. Rachel listened, carefully, without interrupting. When the recording ended, she remained silent for a long time. Finally she spoke. "She wasn't leaving you property." Cole nodded. "No." Rachel looked toward Titan. "She was leaving you a purpose." For the first time in years, Cole felt something shift inside him. Not healing. Not yet. Something smaller, something simpler. Direction. A reason to keep moving. A reason to stay. The deputy stood and gathered the files. "Grant's finished." Cole looked up. Rachel nodded. "The financial evidence is overwhelming. The fire investigation, too. Federal warrants are already being prepared." Outside, snowflakes drifted through gray mountain skies. The storm was ending, at last, but another season was beginning. A few minutes later, Titan struggled to his feet. The injured leg trembled. The effort clearly hurt, yet he stood anyway. Cole immediately moved closer. Easy, steady. The shepherd leaned against him. Together they walked slowly across the recovery room, one careful step at a time. Not fast, not graceful, but forward, and somehow that felt symbolic, because Rose had been right. The inheritance was never a building, never money, never land. It was a mission, a sanctuary, a promise, a second chance. And somewhere beyond the falling snow, hidden among the ridges and valleys of the Smoky Mountains, a broken piece of land was waiting to become something extraordinary. The carriage house had burned, but the purpose survived. And for the first time since losing everything, Cole Brennan knew exactly what came next. Winter tightened its grip on the Smoky Mountains. Snow covered the higher ridges. Bare branches stretched across gray skies like dark veins against the clouds. The valley, where the carriage house once stood, looked frozen in time. Blackened beams protruded from the snow. Collapsed walls rested beneath white drifts. The fire had taken almost everything. Almost, but not the mission. 2 weeks after hearing Rose's final recording, Cole drove back up the mountain. Titan rode beside him. The old shepherd still wore a support brace on his injured leg. Walking remained difficult. Each step carried a slight limp now. Permanent, according to the veterinarians, yet the dog insisted on coming. Nothing could have kept him away. The pickup rolled slowly through the valley. Snow crunched beneath the tires. Cold sunlight reflected across the hillsides. For several moments neither moved. Cole simply stared. The ruined carriage house sat before him. Silent, broken, waiting, Titan climbed down first, carefully, slowly. The injured leg trembled beneath him. Still he stepped forward. Toward the ruins, toward home. Cole followed. The cold air stung his lungs. Smoke was gone now. Only the scent of wet wood remained, and snow, lots of snow. The mountain felt different, lighter somehow, as if a long-held secret had finally been released. Titan wandered through the debris field, sniffing, checking, patrolling, the same way he always had. Cole watched him. A faint smile appeared. The dog had nearly died protecting this place, and somehow he still considered it worth guarding. A truck engine echoed through the valley. Cole turned. Walter Carter's battered farm truck appeared around the bend. The elderly neighbor stepped out, carrying 2 thermoses. "Thought you'd be here." Cole accepted one. Hot coffee, strong enough to wake the dead. Walter glanced toward the ruins. "Looks worse in daylight." Cole nodded. "It does." The old man studied the property quietly, then looked toward Titan. "How's he doing?" Cole followed his gaze. The shepherd stood beside the surviving stone chimney. watching the tree line. Always watching. Better every day. Walter smiled. Tough old dog. Tougher than me. The old man laughed softly. They stood together for a while, watching snowdrift from the surrounding pines, listening to the mountain. Eventually, Walter broke the silence. You know people are talking. Cole raised an eyebrow. About what? Walter shrugged. The fire, the investigation, Grant. His expression darkened. Folks around here are finally learning what kind of man he really was. The news had spread quickly. Federal investigators, financial crimes, fraud, arson, conspiracy. One by one, secrets were surfacing, and Grant Whitaker's empire was beginning to crack. 3 days later, the first arrest appeared on local television. Cole watched from the motel, Titan sleeping beside the bed. A news anchor spoke while aerial footage showed federal agents entering offices in Knoxville. Then came the headline: Whitaker development under federal investigation. Grant's photograph filled the screen. Gone was the confidence. Gone was the smile. Gone was the certainty. For the first time, he looked scared. The investigation expanded quickly. Former employees came forward. Accountants began cooperating. Developers started talking. One witness led to another. Another led to 3 more. The entire structure began collapsing under its own weight, just like the Carriage house roof. Only this time, nobody was trying to save it. Rachel Monroe visited 2 days later. Snow still covered most of the valley. She parked beside the ruins and climbed out carrying a thick binder. Titan immediately recognized her. His tail wagged, a rare honor. Rachel knelt beside him, carefully scratching behind one ear. Good to see you standing. Titan leaned slightly into the attention, then returned to watching the tree line. Professional as always. Rachel laughed. Never off duty. Cole joined her near the truck. She handed him the binder. What is this? Good news. The words felt unusual, almost unfamiliar. Cole opened it. Construction estimates, land surveys, grant approvals, veteran housing partnerships, community support programs, page after page. His eyes widened. Rachel smiled. You're not rebuilding alone. Cole looked up, confused. The deputy nodded toward the binder. People heard what happened. People care. The realization hit slowly. Churches, veteran organizations, animal rescue groups, local businesses, even neighboring farms. Everybody wanted to help. Not because of the property, because of what it represented. Hope, a place worth saving. Rachel folded her arms. You've got volunteers arriving next week. Cole blinked. Volunteers? She laughed. More than 50 so far. The number stunned him. 50. People willing to give their time, their labor, their energy. For strangers. The mountains suddenly felt less lonely. A week later, the rebuilding began. The first trucks arrived before sunrise. Pickup trucks, trailers, construction equipment, farm tractors. Dozens of people stepped out into the cold morning air. Veterans, carpenters, electricians, ranchers, neighbors. People Cole had never met. People who somehow knew his story anyway. Titan sat beside him watching the procession. The shepherd's ears remained alert, studying every newcomer, evaluating, judging, approving one by one. By noon, the valley buzzed with activity. Generators hummed, hammers echoed, voices carried across the snow. The dead property slowly came back to life. Cole worked alongside everyone else, lifting lumber, moving stone, clearing debris. His body ached, his hands blistered, his back complained. But none of it mattered. For the first time in years, exhaustion felt good. Purpose always changes the weight of labor. Around midday, an older veteran approached. Vietnam era. Gray beard, weathered hands, Marine Corps cap. The man extended a hand. Name's Earl. Cole shook it. Earl nodded toward Titan. Heard about that dog. Cole smiled slightly. Most people have. The older veteran looked around the work site, then back toward Cole. You know what you're building here. Cole glanced toward the rising framework. A shelter. Earl shook his head. More than that, the old Marine's eyes softened. You're building proof. Proof of what? Earl looked toward the volunteers, toward the neighbors, toward the veterans, toward Titan. That people don't have to stay broken. The words stayed with Cole long after the conversation ended. Weeks passed, then months. Winter slowly surrendered to spring. Snow melted, creeks swelled with runoff. Wildflowers returned. The valley transformed, and so did Cole. The nightmares didn't vanish. PTSD doesn't work that way. Some nights still brought memories. Some sounds still triggered old fears. Some mornings remained difficult, but something had changed. He no longer faced those battles alone. The community growing around the property became part of the healing, not by fixing him, by standing beside him, just as Titan always had. One rainy afternoon in March, Rachel returned with another update, this one bigger than all the others. Grant Whitaker had accepted a plea agreement, federal prison, financial penalties, asset seizures. The empire was officially finished. Cole listened quietly. No celebration, no victory dance, no satisfaction, just acceptance. Rachel noticed. You're not happy. Cole looked toward Titan. The shepherd lay beneath the partially completed porch, sleeping peacefully. Finally, for the first time in a long time. No, Rachel frowned slightly. Why not? Cole considered the answer, then shrugged. Because this was never about beating him. The deputy followed his gaze toward the rebuilding property. Understanding slowly appeared. This was about protecting something. Cole nodded. Exactly. The mission mattered more than the enemy. It always had. By late spring, the new carriage house stood proudly against the mountain. Larger, stronger, built from stone and timber, designed to last. The original chimney remained. A piece of the past preserved inside the future. Titan claimed the front porch immediately, as if ownership required no paperwork. Visitors quickly learned something. The shepherd greeted everyone, but he also watched everyone, and somehow people trusted his judgment, maybe because dogs rarely lie. One evening, as sunset painted the mountains gold, Cole sat on the porch beside Titan. The valley stretched below them, peaceful, alive. The dog rested his head against Cole's boot, the same way he always had, the same way he probably always would. For a long time neither moved, neither needed to. Then headlights appeared at the end of the road. Another vehicle, another arrival, another story. Cole watched quietly. The truck rolled closer, slowly. A young veteran stepped out, nervous, uncertain, lost. The look felt familiar, painfully familiar. Because once, not so long ago, he had looked exactly the same. The young man glanced toward the rebuilt carriage house, then toward the mountains, then toward Cole, unsure, hopeful, afraid. Cole stood. Titan rose beside him. The shepherd limped slightly, but stood tall anyway. Together they walked toward the newcomer, toward the future, toward the next chapter of Rose Whitaker's mission. And for the first time in many years, Cole Brennan realized something remarkable. He wasn't the man searching for shelter anymore. He was becoming the man who offered it. 1 year later, spring arrived early in the Smoky Mountains. Morning sunlight spilled across the ridges in long golden ribbons. Dogwoods bloomed beside winding roads. Wildflowers pushed through the grass along the creek banks. The valley below Whitaker Ridge looked alive again. Not just rebuilt, alive. The old carriage house no longer resembled the burned structure that had once stood there. Stone walls gleamed beneath fresh timber beams. A wide front porch stretched across the front. Warm lights glowed through the windows each evening. Smoke curled gently from the chimney. The place felt less like a building and more like a promise that had survived fire, survived greed, survived loss. A wooden sign stood beside the entrance road. Whitaker, Ridge Haven Veterans and Service Animal Retreat. The sign had been carved by volunteers. The paw print at the bottom had been added by popular demand. Everyone knew who inspired it. At 6:15 every morning, Cole Brennan followed the same routine. Coffee, property walk, fence inspection, creek check. The old habits remained. but they no longer felt like survival. They felt like stewardship. Titan accompanied him every day. The German shepherd moved slower now. The injured leg never fully healed. Cold mornings made him stiff. Rainy days made him limp harder. Gray fur covered more of his muzzle, yet his eyes remained exactly the same. Sharp, alert, loyal. The unofficial guardian of Whitaker Ridge Haven. Visitors quickly learned something. Titan always greeted newcomers first. Not aggressively, not suspiciously. Simply watching, evaluating, deciding, and somehow his judgment almost always proved right. Cole often joked that the dog ran the place. Nobody argued, especially not after hearing the story. The sanctuary had grown steadily throughout the year. The carriage house became the center. Then came the cabins. Then the workshop. Then the small barn converted into kennel space for retired military and service animals. Veterans arrived from all over. Some stayed a few nights, some stayed a few months, a few never really left. Nobody was pressured to talk. Nobody was forced to explain. Everyone understood that healing moved at its own pace. The valley had become exactly what Rose Whitaker imagined. A place where people could stop running. One cool, April evening, Cole stood on the porch watching the sunset. Orange light spilled across the mountains. The sky looked painted. Titan rested beside the rocking chair. His chin lay across his front paws. Content, peaceful. The sight still surprised Cole sometimes. For years, the dog had spent every waking moment protecting him. Now, for the first time, Titan looked relaxed, as if he finally believed they were safe. The screen door opened behind him. Rachel Monroe stepped onto the porch, carrying 2 coffee mugs. The deputy sheriff had become a regular visitor over the past year. Friendship had arrived slowly, quietly, like most meaningful things. She handed him a mug. Cole accepted it. Everything looks good. Rachel glanced toward the valley. The cabins, the workshop, the trails. The small vegetable garden maintained by residents. The dog training field beyond the creek. It looks incredible, Cole smiled faintly. We got lucky, Rachel laughed. She shook her head. You got stubborn. Titan opened one eye, then closed it again. The conversation drifted into comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't require words. Far below, lights began appearing across neighboring farms. Evening settling over the mountains. Then headlights appeared at the entrance road. A pickup truck, old, weathered. The vehicle rolled slowly toward the main building. Cole immediately noticed something familiar. The uncertainty, the hesitation. The way the driver stopped before reaching the porch, the same way he once would have. Titan rose carefully. One slow movement. The old shepherd's ears lifted, alert, interested. The truck engine shut off. For several seconds, nobody emerged. Then the driver's door opened. A young man stepped out, mid-20s, military haircut growing out unevenly, worn backpack, duffel bag, eyes carrying exhaustion beyond his years. Cole recognized the look instantly. The look of someone who had been fighting alone for too long. The young veteran stood beside the truck, studying the sanctuary, studying the mountains, trying to decide whether to trust what he saw. Titan took 3 careful steps forward. The limp remained obvious now. The old injury had become part of him, yet he still moved with quiet dignity. The young veteran noticed him immediately. The tension in his shoulders eased slightly. Dogs have a way of doing that. Cole stepped off the porch, walked toward him, not too fast, not too slow, giving him space, the same way Walter once gave space to him. The same way Rose once gave space to others. The young man cleared his throat. This place help veterans? Cole glanced toward the sanctuary. Warm lights glowed through the windows. Laughter drifted from the dining hall. Someone played guitar near the fire pit. The scent of dinner floated through the evening air. Home. The place felt like home. Cole looked back at the young man, then at Titan. The shepherd had already reached him, carefully sniffing his hand. The young veteran smiled for the first time. A small smile, but real. Titan approved. That seemed settled. Cole nodded toward the porch. Depends what kind of help you need. The young man looked away briefly, toward the mountains, toward the fading sunset. When he spoke again, his voice sounded quieter, mostly somewhere to stop. Cole felt something tighten in his chest, not sadness, recognition. 1 year ago, he might have said the exact same thing. Somewhere to stop, somewhere to breathe, somewhere to belong. He looked toward the carriage house, Rose's carriage house. The place nobody wanted, the place everyone laughed at, the place someone tried to burn down, the place that refused to die. Then he looked back at the young veteran. The coffee's fresh. The words came naturally, almost automatically. The young man blinked, surprised, hope flickering briefly across his face. Cole smiled, a genuine smile this time. Come on. Titan turned toward the porch, leading the way, as if he had done it 100 times. Maybe he had. The three of them walked toward the sanctuary together. The evening air felt warm. The mountains glowed beneath the last traces of sunlight, and for a moment, Cole slowed his pace, taking it all in. The rebuilt carriage house, the people inside, the life, the purpose, the future. He remembered the night he slept in a truck outside Gatlinburg, cold, hungry, invisible, certain that life had already passed him by. Then came a phone call, one unexpected phone call, and a woman who saw something valuable where others saw nothing. A woman who understood that broken people are not worthless people. Rose Whitaker had left him an inheritance. Not money, not land, not buildings, purpose, the greatest gift she could have given. Later that night, after dinner ended and the sanctuary grew quiet, Cole sat alone on the porch. The stars appeared one by one above the Smoky Mountains. A gentle breeze moved through the trees. Titan lay beside him, beneath an old blanket. The shepherd's gray muzzle rested against Cole's boot, exactly where it had rested 1,000 times before. Cole looked toward the dog. The old warrior opened one eye. Tail thump. One soft thump against the porch floor. Enough to say everything. We made it, buddy. Titan's tail moved again. Slow, content, certain. The lights from Whitaker Ridge Haven glowed warmly across the valley, visible from the road below, visible from neighboring farms, visible to anyone looking for hope. The camera of memory might have pulled farther back then, beyond the porch, beyond the sanctuary, beyond the ridges and valleys stretching across Tennessee, until the entire mountain range rested beneath the stars. And there, among the darkness, stood one small place filled with light, a place born from loyalty, built from sacrifice, protected by courage, and sustained by compassion. The carriage house nobody wanted had become a refuge for countless lives. The homeless Navy SEAL who once searched for shelter had become the man opening the door for others. And the old military K-9 who refused to abandon his partner had become the guardian of an entire community. Sometimes the greatest inheritances are not things we own. They are responsibilities we accept. Sometimes healing does not arrive through miracles. Sometimes it arrives through purpose, through loyalty, through one person choosing not to give up on another. Rose Whitaker understood that. Titan understood it. And finally, after years of wandering, Cole Brennan understood it too. The lights remained on deep into the night, waiting, welcoming, guiding people home. And for the first time in a very long time, nobody at Whitaker Ridge Haven felt hunted anymore. They felt seen. They felt valued. They felt safe. They felt home. The end. If you believe one loyal dog can change a life, comment 1 below. And if you've ever been given a second chance when you needed it most, comment 0 and tell us where you're watching from. Sometimes all it takes is one person or one dog who refuses to give up on you. And if stories about courage, dignity, justice, and perseverance still matter to you, subscribe and join us for the next journey.